Welcome back to my channel. I'm Jenny, this is Sylvia, and in today's video I'm going to be answering the question, will I ever have goldfish again, or any fish for that matter. Since returning to my channel, I consistently get questions about whether I'm ever going to have goldfish again, and I totally understand those questions, by the way. I understand a lot of people initially subscribed for the fish content, but what bothers me is the straight up demands that I get fish again. There are tons of other good aquarium channels you can watch for that fish content if my new content is not your jam. So, will I ever have fish again? I think for me, the ship has really sailed in terms of fancy egg-bodied goldfish. I don't find it to be a very enjoyable hobby for a lot of reasons that I outlined in one of my previous videos, which you can watch here or here. I never remember what side the little thingy is on. But I really think that a hobby should be something that's fun and enjoyable for you instead of a source of constant worry, anxiety, and stress, which is really what goldfish keeping had become for me. Fancy goldfish get sick so easily, so frequently. There's a lot of problems with them, like swim bladder problems that you just can't even avoid no matter how many things you do correctly. And for me, it was just really a frustrating and demoralizing experience to know that, okay, I'm doing everything right, I'm doing all the things I should be doing, but I'm still not being successful in this hobby. It's not fun when that happens. It really can ruin your confidence as a fish keeper, and again, not fun. I think it's unethical to breed fish that can't swim properly and have a host of other unavoidable health problems, especially when you consider the fact that goldfish really only exist purely for our enjoyment. That's the whole reason they're here. They wouldn't be here if it weren't for us wanting something pretty to look at. And I just don't think it's cool to breed animals that are going to suffer for the majority or the entirety of their lives just because we think they're cute or whatever. So fancy goldfish, and by fancy goldfish I mean the big round egg-bodied types, are mostly ruled out for me at this point. But that doesn't rule out goldfish completely. There are still the single-tailed or long-bodied types of goldfish that I do like as well. In fact, I've always had a soft spot for Bristol shubunkins in particular. If you're not familiar with what a shubunkin is, it is a single-tailed goldfish. It's got the long streamlined body, and it's mostly well known for its color pattern because it has that calico color pattern. The Bristol shubunkin is kind of a subcategory of the shubunkin goldfish, and these ones are known for having a big B-shaped tail. I remember seeing a photo online in some obscure place, I don't even know if I could find it again, of completely white Bristol shubunkins with pink gills, because you could see through the gill cover, so you could see that it looked like they were blushing, and I just thought they were so pretty. So I looked for a long time to find someone who could get me some all-white Bristol shubunkins, and it's actually kind of hard to find all-white Bristol shubunkins because it's not a color pattern that they're supposed to have according to the variety standards, so most of the all-white ones are actually culled as young fry. But I liked them, and I kind of coined a new term for them called ghost bristols, because I thought with their flowy fins and their white color, they would just look like ethereal little ghosts swimming through the water, and they did. They were super pretty. So while my experiences health-wise with the Bristol shubunkins that I had were really good, I do know that there is a subset of people out there who are trying to breed them for the biggest possible B-shaped tails that are really frilly and just really extra. And as we know by now, when humans try to breed a feature of an animal or a plant even to be super, super extra and like over-exaggerated, usually doesn't end well. The problem in terms of these fish is that even after the body stops growing, because the fish has fully matured, the tail and the fins in general usually tend to grow slowly, but they still tend to grow over time. So by the time the fish is about 2 or 3 years old, you start having a fish whose tail is way too big proportionally to the body of the fish. And while the fish may have looked beautiful and perfect and swam just fine at 6 months to a year old, by the time the fish is like 2 or 3 years old, usually, that body and the peduncle of the fish is not strong enough to support such a huge, flowy, frilly tail that they're not really naturally supposed to have. And what you'll see is they'll have difficulty swimming. The tail will actually kind of fold and flop over on itself. And not only does that look really bad, but it's also not really great for the fish. So it's not always the case that just because the goldfish is a single-tailed variety and has that torpedo fish body shape that it's going to be healthy and not have any problems. There still can be overbreeding problems with those types of fish too. So as long as I didn't get ones that had completely huge overbred tail fins, I would love to have some Bristol shubunkins again someday, or even some comets or common goldfish, hibuna. I think would be really fun too, because then you could actually see more of the natural behaviors that these fish naturally have, because they're able to do them better because they're shaped more appropriately. In my ideal scenario, I'm envisioning this huge tank, like maybe 120 gallons or so, but one of the long ones, so it looks bigger and it can kind of span like a wall, an entire wall of like a living room or something, and maybe even bigger than 120 gallons. Let's think bigger. It would be fully planted, really lush with all kinds of different plants, and then just a small group of slim-bodied, probably single-tailed goldfish like shubunkins, comets, hibuna in there, and I think that would be really pretty. And it would just be a much more enjoyable way to go about goldfish keeping, in my opinion. So if I were to ever have goldfish again, I think I would do something like that. But the other thing too is I really want to have a pond again someday. The one thing that I miss the most from my home in Florida is the pond, because that waterfall noise was just so nice. You could hear it throughout the entire house. When the windows were open, you could sit out on the covered patio and listen to it and watch the water just cascading down. I also love the variety of wildlife that the pond attracted to my yard. By the time I left, I had had a little colony of wild toads that would call all night long, very loud, but so fun to watch. And a little colony too of wild leopard frogs, and these ones I could identify because each individual looked slightly different. So there was the big mama frog, there was the one with a little bit more green on it, and I would always look for them, and they would come back all the time and just live there. And then the frogs and the toads both would lay their eggs in the pond. I would get to watch the little tadpoles swimming around, and then eventually they would grow their legs and crawl out and become adults. It was just such a cool experience to be able to watch all that native wildlife happening right in my backyard. The problem is right now I live in a seriously small one-bedroom apartment that's already really full between myself, my 3 cats, my large dog, my 4 huge terrariums, and also just tons of houseplants. So both the large aquarium idea and the pond are not possibilities for the foreseeable future, but they're things that I would definitely plan for in looking for a new home to buy at some point in the future. In terms of other types of fish other than goldfish, I'm a little more torn on that, because to me, the whole reason I got into fish keeping in the first place was because of goldfish. Like all the work of maintaining the aquarium, doing the water changes, making sure the water quality is right. The whole reason it was worth it to me was because I loved goldfish so much. I eventually did branch out. You know, I've had a few bettas in my time. I had the big 90-gallon tank with some angelfish, some bristlenose plecos, and a bunch of other types of fish in there too. And I really did like that, but I don't know if at this point the work of maintaining that kind of aquarium would feel worth it to me, because I'm just not as, I love all animals obviously, but I'm just not as drawn to, like, I don't feel like I need to have them in my home, if that makes sense. So I don't feel like it would be worth it to me to put in all that work just for an aquarium to show on my channel. But I will say that every time I go into the pet store to get crickets for these guys, the first thing I look at are the little betta cups, and I'm always just like, maybe. So I think a betta eventually is definitely going to be in my future at some point here. I just don't know when, because again, I'm very limited on space, and I'm just not ready to plunge back into fish keeping quite yet, but I'm sure I will in some way, shape, or form at some point. But one thing I know for sure, and I can nearly promise you, is that I will never again have the sheer number of aquariums that I did have and the sheer volume of water that I was trying to manage. I'll never go there again. It's just too much work, especially now after having reptiles, and even reptiles in bioactive vivariums. There's so much less cleaning than just a regular terrarium. The maintenance for my reptiles is like literally nothing compared to the maintenance for a big aquarium. I'm not into it anymore, you know? It's not worth it to me anymore to put in all that work. I was the only person maintaining all of those aquariums, all of those animals. I just really overloaded myself with too much to do. I really should have hired somebody and gotten help caring for the animals or gotten help with editing or something, but I took on everything all by myself and it was way too much, way too much. So I'll definitely never go back to having that many aquariums. Maybe like one aquarium would be perfectly good enough for me. I really feel like I've had my fill at this point of cleaning aquarium filters. If you know, you know. Siphoning sand or gravel, and also the constant worry about the glass breaking or overfilling the tank by accident, or just something happening catastrophically that caused water to just flood my entire house and ruin everything. It's been really nice not having to worry about that anymore. And now I feel like plants and reptiles are really just more my speed. And I definitely want my channel to always be authentic, and for the things that I'm talking about in my videos and the things that I'm showing you guys in my videos to be completely truthful and honest and really what I want to be doing. Trust me when I say that you guys will be the first to know if and when I do ever get fish again someday, even if it's just a betta fish. People used to yell at me for saying betta fish wrong. I'm sorry, it's just a force of habit, okay? A betta fish. But anything other than just a small betta aquarium is pretty much out of the realm of possibility for me right now because of my space restrictions. And even that, I'm not like super itching to jump right back into that again. So probably someday I will have fish again, but not for a little while. So please let me know your thoughts on this in the comments down below. I will be reading and responding to as many of them as I can. I always love having conversations with you guys in the comments. Thank you for watching. Thank you to my patrons as always, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye. Oh, you look sleepy. What a cutie, look at her. Oh my goodness. She's so cute. I think she likes sitting on my shoulder like this. So cute.